Hi, family. My name is Jade, and welcome to my brand new series called Honestly Still Healing. I'm very excited to launch this little passion project of mine. It's been in the works for a good little minute now, and I'm very excited to honestly find my voice and put it into some content. Just to give you guys a little bit of context on how this project came about, I started back going to therapy at the top of 2025. And I remember one of my most significant complaints was how much I miss creating content. But at the time, I didn't feel like I had anything to say. I was dead set in the middle of my healing process, and honestly that's an ongoing process, but I was dead set in the middle of just getting back on my feet, processing a lot of things and learning a lot of things. And I just remember telling her, like, I miss it so much, but I just don't feel like I have anything to say. So after hours, 8 hour, because she charged about an hour, after an hour of just talking her head off and just telling her all the things that I was going through, she was like, well, Jade, it sounds like you have a lot to say. And when people say stuff when you're like in the midst of going through things, it's like, all right, cool, like whatever. But after sitting on it, like really sitting on it, being still in it, I was like, yeah, I have some things to say. So while I may not have things to say as a final finished product, I definitely just feel inspired to talk y'all through my journey. With that being said, my intentions for this series is to be a space where we can talk through the growth journey in real time. Not as someone who has it figured out. This is not supposed to be instructional. It is 100% reflective. I want to share what I'm learning as I go in hopes that if you are in your own in-between season, that you still feel like you have a community. I know how sucky it could feel to be like, all right, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm also not in the beginning either. And that's where I was for a very long time. And honestly, I still am. And that's why I just want to give this space to be like, yeah, we're figuring out, but it's a good conversation. It's good to talk to someone who's going through similar things as you. Um, so here we are. So, welcome to episode 1, Still Breaking Cycles, and today's topic is parenting. First and foremost, before we jump into everything, I do want to lay a foundation that is very, very important to me. All of the mentors that I've had, whether it be for career or personal, every person that I have talked to, when I see this like dramatic transformation, and I always ask, well, can you talk me through your process, mentor me through what you've already been through? Every single person who I admire in some shape or form always tell me that it starts with God. The career mentor that I had, he walked me through a couple of things, but then like after he walked me through everything, he was like, I'm going to be honest though, I wouldn't be here without God. And that really shifted my mentality when I am tackling these big issues like, parenting, career, character flaws that I have. I now take it to God. So, yeah, we're going to be walking through my process of how I started working through some of these things, but it did not happen without putting God first, without going to God and saying, you know what? And boy, am I hard headed, and I do like to try things my way first, but taking it to God and being like, I've tried everything. I've done everything that I was supposed to do, and it is still not working out. I want to give it to you now, and I want you to handle it. So I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there that, yes, we are going to be walking through a couple of things, but it started with God first. So we're going to jump back to the top of 2025 and talk about why I specifically went back to therapy. So at the top of 2025, I actually got a new job. It was fully remote. We moved out of Charlotte into a suburban area with, a better school system, more parks, more families. I thought that I was doing everything right. I was at home. I should have had more time to, prepare for when my baby gets home from school. I had time to, in between doing what I'm doing, I can, prep for dinner, get everything ready, have after school snacks. On paper, everything should have been perfect since I was, I have this work from home job that's great for a single mother. We're in the suburbs now. But instead of things improving, I really felt like the complete opposite was happening. I noticed that my son was struggling not only with, his self-talk, but then also the way that he perceived our relationship. It was always a question of like, oh, do you love me? Do you love me? And I know kids say that jokingly, but at some point, like you look at them and you be like, do he really question if I love him or not, and why? Like, I'm doing everything for you. I got this job for you. I moved out and got this apartment for you. So it was just very frustrating to me because it's like I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing. Why is it not improving? So when I originally reached out to my therapist doing my research, she was a faith-based therapist, and then she also specialized in specific women traumas. That's not the correct way to say that. Traumas that women specifically experience. She also worked with children, and then she was also a family-based therapist as well. And I'm probably not using the correct terms, but she specialized in family issues. So that's why I picked her. I picked her because I thought, all right, I'm going to take Kyrie to therapy with me. She's going to sit there and she's going to talk me through how we should talk to each other. She's going to tell Kyrie what to do. And it's just going to be like a amazing fix. She's going to do a 1-2 step and we're going to have it all together. Never happened. Never happened. My therapy has only ever consisted of me and her. And the reflections and the work that we have done have only ever involved me. Never once have we ever talked through, oh, Kyrie like has these issues. It was never that. It has always been an introspection, reflecting me, Jade, personally, working through Jade stuff. So one mindset that I had going into therapy that definitely needed some shifting was that I was a bad parent. Whenever I talked about myself to my friends or just, talking to my parents, I did refer to myself and identify as a bad parent. I always told myself that, no, I'm not like beating on my kids or whatever, but I just know that I could do better. I know better. I could do better. I also consistently thought that like if I do this, he would just act right. And I'm going to be honest, that's a concept that I consistently have to work through in life, just thinking that there is a if then type of setup when it comes to working through things that need to be worked through. And just remembering that a journey is a journey for a reason. It's not you walk into a room and things just suddenly change. It's a process. Like I said, I thought that I was going to bring my kid to therapy. She was just going to tell us how to talk to each other, and that was going to be that. But it was the complete opposite. So one of the ways that we really addressed this and shifted the way that I saw myself as a parent is really taking a step back and understanding why I felt the way about certain situations and why I reacted a certain way about certain situations. So one specific example would be how frustrated I would get when my son started crying. And that was something that was like a exclamation, like a Jade, why? Because I am a crybaby myself. Like I am a very emotional person. I feel my feels. And one thing I just never understood is if you're so emotional and you understand someone deeply feeling their emotions, why when it comes to Kyrie, you get so irritated and irked and frustrated when he starts crying? And one of the things we talked about was maybe it's because I don't know what to do. And that was very true. Like I did not know how to handle walking my child through his emotions. And I was like, okay, cool. So like we understand that part. It makes me feel better about, when I react that way. I'm not reacting that way because I'm mean or I'm a bad parent. I'm reacting that way because I don't know what to do. But then that frustrated me because it's like, all right, well, you're a good person. Why do you not know what to do? And something my therapist walked me through was, and just to give, I guess, some background context, I did not grow up in a household with either of my parents. I lived with family, and it wasn't the best. We'll put it that way. So just walking through, my family history and things like that, my therapist took a moment to say, well, Jade, if you were never shown how to do it, how would you know how to do it? Like, why would you just expect yourself to know how to react when a kid cries? And it was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. Like, I feel you. And granted, I am a perfectionist. And when I am told certain things, it does take me a little minute to receive it. But, after we have the conversation and I sit on it, it's like, okay, All right. Like I'm here with you. I understand you. I got you. And honestly, that reframed everything for me. It really replaced the frustration and the disappointment that I had within myself for myself with understanding, and it gave me space to grow. And it was such a good starting point. And coincidingly, at the same time, during this time, I also just started, going back to church every single Sunday. And something that my pastor said that I really held on to is that he said that struggle is a sign that you have enough Jesus in you to know that this isn't his best for you. And so when I'm going through these situations, say something happens at home, my kid acts a certain way, I react another way, and I feel it in my gut that, like, I don't know, this isn't how I want to react. It's not to beat myself up, but it's to know deep down inside this isn't the best version of the mom that God wants you to be. And that is I can sit with that and I can receive that. So now that we are back in therapy and I am being conscious about some of the decisions that I make and the actions that I take, I am trying to break the cycle of feeling like you have to earn love and you have to earn worthiness. That is something that I am actively working through. I am seeing it in different versions in my adulthood, whether it's friendships, whether it's work, of course, relationships. But I started to see that in my son. I started to see the way that he would try to earn my love. Like he would think that I only loved him if he got good grades or if he just acted correctly, that is the only time that I love him. And I really hated that. And I do have to take some accountability and recognize that it's because of my reactions. Like when things don't necessarily pan out the way that I want to, I may act or react in a more heightened state than I need to. And I don't want that to affect him in the long run. I don't want him to take that into the future, whether, I have worries about his generation. I am concerned about how much access they had so early and how it's just going to continue to grow. And I want my son to be rooted in something when he gets older. When he gets into high school and it's time to navigate good friendships, are you only picking people who praise you when you do things for them? Or are you picking friendships that make you feel whole and complete no matter what? When he picks his lovers when he gets older, when he has coworkers, when he has bosses, whoever that he ends up being around, I just want him to be grounded in God's love. And that doesn't just mean his relationship with God, that also means how I show God's love as well. And I really hope that that makes sense. I hope to tie that back together later because a lot of the ways that I am starting to anchor my actions and reactions are in love. When I am doing my reflections on myself, did I speak out of love? Did I speak with patience? And I heard someone once say that her purpose and role as a mother was to raise functioning adults. And I wholeheartedly feel that. So when I'm thinking about cycles that I want to break within my family, it is for sure 100% that mentality of thinking that you need to earn love and worthiness. This question is it goes deeper than what I'm going to answer, but that is because I am still working through some of this. But one thing that I'm still struggling with is, as we've mentioned before, my responses, especially in heightened stress situations. I do pretty well when things are controlled, like in under my control, basically. Like, did we wake up on time? Did we do X, Y, and Z? But when things start to get out of my control, when we are outside of the schedule, when we aren't doing things as planned, I still struggle with some of my responses. And I also struggle in spaces where I have to tend to both little Jade and Kyrie. There are a lot of times where I didn't do a lot of things growing up. I didn't make cookies with my mom, or we didn't do a lot of things together. So in times where there needs to be split control, but I feel my little Jade showing up, and like little Jade wants to do this, can I share that control and share that space with him? That is something that I am still working on, and I am very excited to see where we land at the end of the year. But those are just things that I'm very conscious of, and things that this next part that we talk about, I really keep in mind when we're in this space. So what does doing it differently look like right now? Doing it differently to and when I say doing it differently, I mean, how are we breaking these cycles? Like, how am I consciously choosing not to repeat the things that I've done in the past, or the responses that I've had in the past, the mindset that I have had in the past? And one of the things that I do a lot differently is I apologize a lot in the moments where I do have those responses that I am not as proud of. And just to give y'all an example, because I know I'm being very vague when I say, oh, I don't respond the way that I would like to respond. Sometimes I crash out. Sometimes I still crash out. Sometimes we will be in the car and I will still spaz for a split second. Sometimes I will be doing homework and I will get frustrated and huff and puff and slam on tables and things like that. Sometimes I do get uptight when we're doing certain things and it doesn't go as I planned. If I proactively try to do an activity together and it doesn't go how I imagined it was going to perfectly go in my head, I get frustrated still. So in those moments where I find myself responding not in the way that I would like to, or the way that would portray the mother that I believe that God said that I could be, I apologize. And that is big for me. I know a lot of people in my generation did not grow up with parents who apologized. I know that is like, girl, what? But I apologize. I'm not above saying I could have reacted differently. And I feel like that is a learning moment for both me and him. I will do a full apology. I will say, in this moment, I reacted like this. I could have reacted like this. My intentions was not to hurt your feelings, but I am trying to either protect you, trying to create good habits in you, trying to help you understand X, Y, and Z. I do walk through the whole situation in its totality in my apologies, and I feel like it's a good reflecting moment for the both of us. Do I feel like he fully receives those apologies? Sometimes it's like, yeah, ma, it's okay, whatever. And sometimes he will, speak back to me and say, yeah, that did hurt my feelings. And then I have to double down on, I didn't mean it. And I will do better. I am trying to do better. And boy, does he hold me accountable to do better. So I feel like it goes very well both ways. With me apologizing, like I said, he has no problem holding me accountable when I do apologize and I say that I'm trying to do better. So when it happens again, he is 100% like, is this doing better? And I say, no, it's not. Another way that I am doing it differently, and it's so funny now because maybe like 6 months ago, I got offended because someone was like, it's okay, Jay, like you're new to faith and you're a baby in this. And I got really offended because I was like, girl, I'm not new to anything. Like, I grew up in the church. I've known God all my life. When I got baptized, I believe I got baptized in like middle school. I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was doing. So when someone was like, oh, you're new to this, it was just like, I'm not new to this, but I am new to this. I am a baby to this. So one way doing it differently looks like for me is reading my Bible for character development. I do not have sections of the Bible memorized yet, but it is definitely on the top of my list for 2026. I do want to actively start memorizing even just verses of the Bible that just help me really anchor myself. And I say this because I'm a podcast listener. I am a YouTube watcher. I enjoy TED Talks. And one thing that I have just realized in watching all of these videos, something that is just very similar in every single last one of these the like groundbreaking, like really good, dang, like this was a really good message. All of them coincide with things that God said in the Bible, whether it's, not being idle or moving with love or forgiving your neighbors and loving them as yourself. Like everything that tends to like really hit home with me when I sit and reflect, it's like, oh, well, we talked about that in church. So it's really interesting to me that like the top motivational speakers or the best whatever theorists, like they all end up reflecting the Bible, whether they know it or not. So for me, it's just really important to start really digging into my Bible and seeing what God says about, being a mother or even just being a good person in general, like being a reflection of God. So that is just one way that I am doing it differently to kind of check myself of like, okay, you felt it that this wasn't your best. How can we go and change that? And lastly, I listen to my convictions. I gut check myself often because a lot of the times in the moments where I know that I could do better, I literally feel it in my stomach. Like if I spaz out and then I drop him off to school, I feel it in the pit of my stomach that like, dang, like I started his day off like this. And I really have to ask myself, like, was that a valid crash out? Did he actually deserve it? Because sometimes I'm not going to lie to y'all. You will repeat yourself 5, 6, 7 times in such the nicest, gentlest parent way, but they do not listen. So sometimes the crash out is valid and that's fine. And maybe, I'm not saying like cussing and all that stuff, but sometimes you might need to, use your outside voice than trying to speak to them kindly and using your inside voice. But was the crash out valid? Or could I have handled it a little differently? Like I said, could I have handled it with love? Could I have handled it with more patience? And what would it look like if I did? So one thing that is really big for me is I like to write out everything. I like to write out my plans. I like to write out ideas that I have for art projects. I like to write out my prayers. So when I first started this reflective journey in parenting, one thing I used to do and still do because sometimes I need help is I write down the situation. I reflect on my reaction. And then sometimes I have to sit and think really, really, really hard. How could I have responded differently? Like literally, what would that have looked like? What would you have said if you responded with a little bit more love or a little bit more understanding? Or what if you responded in a teaching type of way? I have to physically write that out to start ingraining in myself, okay, since this is not second nature to you, since this is not how you grew up, when you do get in those situations, this is what this can look like. And it definitely wasn't an instant overnight switch, but it made me more aware. Like each time it was like, okay, I know I could have done better. The next time, okay, I did half of it. Like I started good, I ended bad. Then the next time I might say it, I might not say it with conviction. I might not say it with confidence, but I said it nicely. The tone might have been off, but I said it nicely. And then the next time it's like, okay, I'll piece together the words and the tone. I didn't get myself worked up. My chest didn't hurt when the situation happened. So just writing out the situations and writing out my responses really helped me kind of anchor myself in what to do next. So this may be a deeper topic for another day, but I definitely want to leave you all with something that my therapist said literally last week. And for context, we were having a conversation just about how disappointed I was in myself because at this point we were 13 months in of understanding these cycles that I have, understanding, past traumas, current state. And I was just like, I know all this stuff and still I'm slipping up and still I'm having some of these reactions that I know I can do better with. And I said all my disappointments out loud. She stopped for a second and she just looked at me and she said, what kind of audacity do you have to expect perfection from yourself when God doesn't even expect us to be perfect? And my goodness gracious, did that set the tone for my word of the year, which is grace. Not only giving people grace, but just having grace and holding space for grace for myself. I mentioned to y'all before that I 100% was I knew that I was a perfectionist in high school. I knew I was a perfectionist in college. And the way that those showed up traditionally, being perfect in my homework, being perfect in sports, trying to come home and be a perfect daughter or niece. Those characteristics of perfectionists or perfectionism were very obvious then. As an adult, when things start to switch up, it's like, maybe my house isn't perfect, but like when you really start to beat yourself up over, you have these expectations in your head and then you don't meet them. I didn't realize that that was like my perfectionism coming out as an adult. So it was very interesting to see that. And then for her to say that to me was very grounding because, yes, we do have to remember that while we are going through this journey of being parents, we are parents for the first time. We are parents of 2 kids for the first time. We are parents of 3 kids for the first time. We are parents to this person for the first time. So as we're navigating the spaces, first of all, give yourself a huge high five. Give ourselves a huge high five, a pat on the back, because we are even recognizing that we want to do it better. We are recognizing we have that little bit of God in us, that little bit of Jesus in us that says we can do better. This is not our best for God and we could do better. And that is so, so, so good. So I know it gets hard. It gets frustrating. God did not expect us to be perfect. He just expected us to give it to him and to walk it out in his way, in his word. So I am very, very proud of us. I want us to remember that we are going to focus on the progress, not the perfection. I love y'all so, so, so much. I hope that my nerves weren't too bad because I feel them all over. I stumbled on my words all over, but this is first of many. And I am so excited to just share this process with y'all, hold this space with y'all. And I can't wait to hear feedback. How are you working through this parenting journey? How are you making changes? In which ways do you know that I could be better? And what are we doing about it? Do you have success stories? I would love to hear success stories. I need success stories. I call myself a crumb catcher. I got that out of Travis Green's book. I forgot the exact term that he used, but it was something about using the crumbs. I love using the crumbs. When people tell me their stories, when I hear these little pieces in podcasts and sermons and stuff like that, I like to take my crumbs together and make bread. So if you guys have success stories, if something really worked out for you, please share it because you never know what could help other people. But yeah, I hope y'all have an amazing, amazing week. Let's show up in love this week. And I cannot wait to, child, I will say I'll see y'all back next week, but bye.